I spoke to all these new CEOs that were moving their companies into Texas from California. And I said, how many of you here moved because of taxes? They all raised their hand. Okay. How many moved here because of regulation? You couldn't get anything done in California. They all raised their hand. Okay. How many of you just could not, for any reason, do business anymore in California, and this is like a paradise? They all raised their hand. I said, now, how many of you have told your employees that very thing, that you've now moved from California here to Texas? Not one raised their hand. And I said, you're gonna end up in California again. You have to tell people why you moved to Texas. You moved to Texas because it is impossible to do business in California. And if you just keep importing people from California that don't get it, that don't know, they're just going to turn us into California.
All right, Glenn Beck, do I have to bother giving you an intro? What do you want me to say about you? You're on the short list of sane people that I've known throughout this. Like, would that suffice?
I am so thrilled to say that you and I have been friends since before it was cool to be friends with each other. You know what I mean?
We really have. Well, I feel like you're one of my original friends in the biz now, which is crazy. I mean, we only met, my guess is it was probably late 2016, early 2017. So it's not that long, but
was it really only then?
Yeah, because I only lived in that house for a short period of time, and I remember you walking in to do the show. It was the first time we ever broke bread, and we had to kind of feel it out.
Well, I remember walking out and talking to some people in the conservative movement, and they were like, shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that. He's not, I'm telling you, Glenn, he's not a friend. And I'm like, he seemed totally cool. I really liked him. And they're like, yeah, but he doesn't agree on abortion. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we can't talk to him until he agrees on absolutely every one of our that's craziness. And it was amazing to watch people, they just don't know how to deal with it. And I think we're getting worse at this. If you don't agree on 100% of whatever it is, we can't talk. You're an enemy of mine, and it's got to stop. It's crazy.
It's really got to stop. And I think maybe to your credit, in those, roughly 9 years since we've known each other, I'm probably more of a right-wing maniac than you are at this point.
I told you. Oh, Dave, you will be ours. At some point, you will be ours. Now you're looking at me going, Glenn, at some point, you will be ours.
I know. You're just too moderate for me, but I said, okay, we'll do this show anyway with moderate liberal Glenn Beck.
Well, I think that's moderate liberal. I think that's what happens when you move to Florida instead of Texas. I mean, Texas kind of pussed out on us in many ways. I mean, it's still great, but it's not Florida. It's not Florida, and Texas is in trouble.
Let's do a little of that to start, because there was a moment where I considered a Dallas operation, and we took a walk on your ranch, and we had a serious heart-to-heart, and I really was considering it. And then I had it was more family reasons, because I had my sister and my parents here that got me to Florida. But that's an interesting place to start, because Florida and Texas are kind of the Alamo now. You do still have the Alamo. We're kind of the Alamo of America. Yeah. But Florida does seem to be doing it in a better way than Texas is doing it right now.
I think it's DeSantis. I worry about what's going to happen to Florida once DeSantis is gone, because he's just so clear. And I think he's America's best governor. And we have a governor who is, okay. We have, House of Representatives that is, okay. It's all Republican, but what does that even mean anymore?
So what is that? What is that? So why would somebody like Abbott, who is in charge of Texas, that had a weird moment maybe with Beto a couple of years ago where it felt like it might go the other way, but then it did push back to red. Why aren't they stronger? Why isn't he looking at DeSantis and being like, I'm going to do it this way?
I think it's because Texans don't feel like they could lose it all. They really don't. They're like, it's Texas. It'll always be Texas. Where Florida was like, it could go anyway. Yeah. And Texas is just, it'll always be this way. And they have no idea how close it is to losing Texas. I mean, I'm really concerned about it. I've talked to the governor about it. I've talked to Ken Paxton about it. I've talked on the air about it. I went to I spoke to all these new CEOs that were moving their companies into Texas from California. And I said, how many of you here moved because of taxes? They all raised their hand. Okay. How many moved here because of regulation? You couldn't get anything done in California. They all raised their hand. Okay. How many of you just could not, for any reason, do business anymore in California, and this is like a paradise? They all raised their hand. I said, now, how many of you have told your employees that very thing, that you've now moved from California here to Texas? Not one raised their hand. And I said, you're gonna end up in California again. You have to tell people why you moved to Texas. You moved to Texas because it is impossible to do business in California. And if you just keep importing people from California that don't get it, that don't know, they're just going to turn us into California.
So do you think it's part of just the human condition that because when things are going right, people do take their foot off the gas, that it's part of the human condition that you don't then relentlessly run around defending all the good stuff? Although I will have to say, and maybe this is your point, here in Florida, I'm seeing and probably because of DeSantis, the people that are moving here are the most patriotic, we are not going to screw this up thing ever. I mean, I'm telling you, my neighborhood, every day someone new is moving in, American flag is going right up front, at the beginning, and they're making it clear they are here for a reason.
That's generally happening in Texas. I would say that Austin scares me a little bit, especially.
You got a real I Am Legend situation there with the homeless, by the way.
Yeah, it's really bad in Austin, and Austin has always been very left, and that's the capital and the home of, some of the powerful universities, and now they're trying to make it into, the Hollywood of Texas, and that just scares the crap out of me, because you start to lose Austin. You grow the spirit of Austin from what it already has been. It is already the San Francisco of Texas. You give that more cultural relevance, you're going to lose the state, and we lose Texas and we're done, because you'll never get it's like having California and New York and Texas. You have New York, California, Texas. What else do you need?
Well, it basically, it would be the ultimate sacrifice to the monster to then be like, okay, now we've got everybody at that point, right? You take out Texas, you take everybody. So with that in mind, we have traded some communication over the last year. I have had a sense that Florida might be in Glenn Beck's future. Now, you're running quite an operation over there with the Blaze, 1 million people over there who I love. Largest sound stage between New York and Cali in the entire United States of America. I've been to the ranch. I see what's going on in Glenn Beck's life. You have the fancy pillow couch from Restoration Hardware that everybody wants, the cloud couch. Everybody wants that.
Yeah, sure, everybody does. Of course,
you also have a lot of great memorabilia and things of that nature, but the couch is pretty impressive. But I sense Florida is in you now. Am I right about this?
Because we've been exchanging emails. I promised my wife that when we first got married, she's like, someday I want to live by the water. And there's no water in Texas. None. Unless you want to live in Houston or Corpus Christi, you don't want to do that because it's just so humid.
That's too hot.
It's too hot, even for Floridians. And so my wife and I, for the last 3 or 4 years, have been looking for a place, and we just found a place. And you're the first to know it, Dave. But I'm keeping everything in Texas, in Dallas. But Tanya and I are going to be living most of our time. We're going to be living in Florida because I love it, and I love. The one thing I miss about New York is the dynamic culture of all of the big brains just hanging out and talking and having dinner and everything else. Not that it doesn't happen in Texas, but Florida has become the best part of New York, in my opinion. And I really enjoy it every time I go there. And my wife always says, they have an ocean here. Actually, we're closing on a house in about a month.
If you're craving more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics, check out our politics playlist right here. And if you don't want to miss any future videos, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.